I'm Tyler Fertel, here joined by DC United center back and captain Steven Birnbaum. Steven, thank you very, very much for joining me here today.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. So I want to get started here talking about originally your college experience and why you picked the college you went to. So you played college soccer and attended the University of California, Berkeley, but you grew up actually in Southern California in the Newport area. Why did you choose to move up to Northern Cal to play college soccer? And were the Golden Bears always your number one choice?
I was going through the process pretty early on in high school. I had some offers from a bunch of different schools kind of around the country and took visits over to, Indiana, Creighton, St. Louis. And then I went up to UCLA, Stanford, Cal, kind of did the West Coast a little bit. And then I realized I wanted to stay in California a little bit and stay on the West Coast and kind of be in the Golden State. But then I didn't want to be too close to home, so UCLA was probably a little bit too close. And I just kind of meshed really well with the coach up there, Kevin Grimes, and he did a great job kind of showing my path and my pathway to the pros as I was a high schooler and telling me I was going to be a center back, because at the time I was a central midfielder. And he's like, "You're going to be a center back when you come here," and kind of groom you and basically teach you how to play defense, and I'll make sure you go pro.
Did he want to convert you to a center back because of your size? I mean, I know you're tall, and I think on your Wikipedia page says 6'1" or 6'2". So was that one of the main reasons?
Yeah, I think that was the main reason. I'm also kind of known for, I guess, aerials and being one of the better players at heading the ball. And as a center back, that's kind of, your main job. One of your main jobs is to just battle with forwards. And to be quite honest, I probably wasn't as good with my feet as I should be as a central midfielder. So he saw that and he was like, "All right, look, we're going to use your size, your strength in the air, and probably convert you to a center back." And it worked out in the end. And honestly, I couldn't imagine being a central midfielder now, for being honest.
And at Cal, obviously you were a team captain while you were there. But actually you decided to redshirt your junior season, which was 2012. And I was just wondering what went into that decision.
So unfortunately, I kind of blew my knee out in the first game of preseason and tore my MCL. And in college, the soccer season's so short, so it's a 4-month season. And basically, with an injury like that, you're going to be out the entire season. It was one of those things where I had to decide, okay, am I going to go into the draft and just kind of risk, teams taking a chance on me with this injury, or should I redshirt and come back for my 5th year and basically just try and have a good senior 5th year season and be drafted high, and talked to my coach a lot about it. And he said to come back. And so I did, and ended up having a phenomenal senior year, 5th year. And, was one of the top picks in the draft. So it ended up working out. Retrospect, looking back, it was, one of the best decisions in my life.
Mm-hmm. And what were obviously that's a really major injury, especially with the knees. What were some of the challenges to coming back, knowing that you had your eyes set on the pros and kind of trying to figure out whether you wanted to stay in college or go pro, and just while you're coming back and while you're struggling to kind of get that knee back to full strength?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, realizing how much you miss something once it's taken away from you, right? And so, I was planning on going pro the whole time I was in college. I was, that was my goal, was to, get drafted and play in MLS. And, once that injury happened, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this even going to happen? Am I going to have to look for a real job? What's going to go on? And so once it was taken away from me, I put all my energy into basically learning what I could do off the field and how I could help my teammates, and watching more film and basically being an assistant coach at that time, because I couldn't play and I was one of the older guys on the team. And so it just kind of gave me that perspective from the sideline, and just realizing that I basically had 1 season left in me to really make a push at this thing. And I put all my effort, basically had 1 class the last year of college, and it worked out. So I was basically a pro at that time anyways. And it happened to work out great. And I basically put all my eggs in that basket that last year, and played well.
Uh-huh. And you talked about this before. You went pro after that fifth season. And you were drafted second overall in the 2014 MLS SuperDraft by DC United, obviously. And what was that experience like for you, the draft night, preparing for the draft? And did you always have your eyes set on DC United? And did you know that they were interested in you before actually being selected?
Yeah, so you actually sign, you basically know you're going to be drafted at that point if you're going to be one of the top picks in the draft. And so you sign a contract with the league prior to the draft. So you know you're going to get drafted, which is exciting before the draft actually happens. And then it's just a matter of which team wants you. So throughout the combine, you kind of go through all this process of interviews and all these different teams. So I had a good idea that DC was interested in me. They did a pretty thorough interview with me and some mental tests, I guess, whatever, basically before the draft, and they're trying to pick your brain as much as possible and learn everything about you. So DC was very interested in me. I knew they were going to be interested. I knew Vancouver was interested in me, Philadelphia, a couple other teams. But DC had the most interest and they had the number 2 pick. And so at that time, my agent kind of called me and was like, "Hey, look, this is kind of where what's looks like it's going to happen." And I'm like, "All right, like we'll see what happens." And the draft was just a great process. My whole family was there, and it was just a fun time. It was up in Philly, and once you hear your name called, it's a dream of mine to get drafted, and then to be going to such a historic club like DC, it just made sense. And I've been here ever since, and now I call DC home.
Uh-huh. And obviously, it seems like you love DC United. You love the city of Washington, D.C. But whether it's before the draft order actually was even created, whatever it was, did you have a certain team or city that you wanted to end up in, or was it always just, I want to go wherever I fit best?
I mean, at that time, I wanted to stay in California, for being honest. I was like, my family's from Orange County. I went to school up in Northern California. So I was like, any team on the West Coast would be great. And of course, I go the furthest place possible, basically in DC. So things don't always work out the way you want. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I would have liked to stay in California at the time, but it worked out probably for the best for my soccer career and for me personally, just to grow up and kind of see a different part of the country.
Uh-huh. And obviously you had a great experience with the MLS draft. I know I tuned into the MLS draft as an MLS fan, but the MLS draft does not seem to be as well known as the other drafts, potentially for the NBA, NFL, and maybe even the NHL. How do you think that the MLS or MLS can make their draft more popular?
Yeah, it's interesting because the draft has kind of tapered off over the last several years due to the influx of talent with the academies. So all these MLS soccer teams have academies, and kids are actually foregoing college, and so they don't actually get to enter the draft because teams already own their rights. So kids will be 17, 18 years old, and they don't get drafted. They just are claimed by that team. They sign a homegrown contract with, say, DC or LA Galaxy or whoever, and basically they're just claimed by that team. And so they'll grow up through their farm system, their academy, their farm team, their USL team, and then eventually play with the first team. So the draft is kind of becoming, I don't want to say obsolete, but it's not holding as much weight as it used to. And I think that's just the culture of soccer now. It's a little bit different than the other sports in America where they don't necessarily have these academies. It's basically, you're forced to go to college and you play in, college, and then you go through the draft process. And now with soccer and MLS, it's kind of, transitioning towards that worldwide, philosophy of soccer where you just basically grow up in the academy, you learn the system, and you just sign a pro contract at a young age. And there's a ton of talent coming up. You see all these kids, signing contracts at 16. I couldn't even imagine that I turned pro at like 23. So it was definitely different. But the sport of soccer is growing in America quickly.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think it's interesting what you brought up, like the balance between like how soccer works in European countries and around the world, and then how these American sports work. It's a very interesting balance there. And you talked about it right here. The MLS seems to be gaining more momentum and becoming more popular by the month, by the year. There are increasing amounts of players coming over from Europe's top leagues. MLS is beginning a new partnership with Apple TV next season that will allow them to broadcast every game across the world. And everything seems to be really going in the right direction for MLS. As a player in the league, someone who's been involved with pro American soccer since 2014 when you were drafted, have you noticed this positive movement? And in your opinion, are there any other key things or ideas that MLS can implement to kind of accelerate this momentum?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I've been in the league 9 years now, and you see it's such a transition of, it's mostly just talent that you see coming in, and they're bringing in guys who are in their prime, big time players in their prime coming over. You see what Toronto's doing with all these Italian players, and they're spending loads of money, and these guys are in their prime, and it's just, it's great to see. So it's obviously harder on the field for us. When I was a rookie, you come in, you're like, okay, I can hang, but it's just, you have to grow as a player, and you see this influx of talent, and it's amazing to watch, and all the money being spent through these teams with not just, facilities, everything that they're putting into their academy, the stadiums that are being built, they're unbelievable, and the fan bases that they're creating. So I think, St. Louis comes in next year, and then I think there are talks of maybe another team coming in, such as Vegas. So they're really, putting a lot into it. People are buying into it. I think you're seeing more of the casual fans, that you would have seen maybe go to baseball or football or hockey games, like you mentioned. They're coming to, soccer games, and they're like, wow, what a great atmosphere. I know nothing about soccer. This is a great place to, maybe pregame before we go out for the night. And they come back because they have such a good experience. So I think that's the key, that it's going to continue to grow in MLS. And obviously the World Cup comes to the States in 2026, which is going to be a massive boom for soccer. And so I think just piggybacking off of that, MLS is just going to have to continue that momentum of getting the casual fan and realizing that soccer is a global game, and America is basically the last one to take part in it.
Mm-hmm. And DC United, you talked about Toronto adding Insigne and Bernardeschi from Italy. DC United's adding a Belgian striker who was a former Premier League player. This is a new addition, Christian Benteke. What are you excited for him to bring to the team?
Yeah, obviously he's quality. He's as a big point forward up top, big number 9 for us. We're counting on him to score a bunch of goals, but he's going to be great for us in the way that we want to play. We're a possession-based team now, and so we want to, make sure we have someone to bounce the ball back off of. And obviously, once crosses go in the box, we need him to score goals. And so he's got that big frame. He obviously has the quality. Met him a couple days ago, and so it's excited to get him in the mix with the group and kind of get that cohesion with the team that we need right now.
Uh-huh. And not only have you gotten a new great player added to the team, you also have a new coach, former English player Wayne Rooney, who was recently hired as the new coach of DC United. He's a former teammate of yours when he came over from England and played for DC United. And I know you two are friends. What was your initial reaction and thoughts to him being named head coach?
Yeah, it was awesome. Obviously with resume as Wayne's, it's great to have him come back to DC United and be our coach. And he has such a great knowledge of the game and great soccer IQ. So he sees the game differently than most people, and he's implementing his system quickly. It's obviously going to take time for us to learn it, and he's implementing new players coming in. And so you already mentioned Christian Benteke coming in, but we've had a bunch of other guys signed over the last month or two, and it's just about incorporating those guys. And Wayne's got a great philosophy, like I said, and it's just about everyone getting behind him. And it's not hard to get behind a guy like Wayne because he's got that presence and he knows what he wants, and he's going to get the best out of every player that comes through.
Mm-hmm. And there's 11 games left in the regular season for you guys. You are still in playoff contention. So what do you think DC United does need to do to make a playoff push?
Yeah, we're in that phase where it's, like I said, we're bringing in a bunch of players, and we've had that influx where we just need to put games together. We need to go on a run right now, and we're obviously not in the position we want to be. We want to be above the line to make the playoffs. So, it's just about making that run of games where you can build momentum and pick up, a couple wins here and there, and then you just see that confidence growing throughout the team. And in MLS, as you've watched it, any team can beat any team on that day. So it's just about building confidence with us, right? And it's going to take a little bit, but like you said, we have 11 games, and in MLS, if you go on a 3-game run where you win games, that's 9 points. That would put us above the line right now. So it's just about being, trusting in what we're doing, trusting the process. I know it's cliche, but trusting that we're, going through the right steps. And, if we prepare the right way, the results will come. So that's the way we're looking at it. And it's just about believing in ourselves.
Uh-huh. And you've been such a consistent piece for DC United, you've played every minute of every game for DC United this season. And you also started every game for them in the 2018 season and 2019 season. So what are some ways you keep yourself healthy, motivated, and focused throughout the full regular season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's just, knock on wood, it's been fortunate enough to, stay healthy, but it's also, I try and just manage the way I prepare for games, right? It's, knowing my body. I've been in the league long enough to know what I need to do to prepare for a game and to make sure that my body feels fresh going into those games. And maybe that's, having to take a practice off here and there, or, letting the training staff work on me. I'm in all the time, hours before training just to get work done, and then after. So it's just about managing my body, and it's the mentality, I think. I mean, my goal is obviously as a center back to play every game, play every minute. You want to be in there, and you want to do the best you can to help the team win. And so that's my goal going into every season, is to stay healthy. If you're available, you're an asset to the team. So for me, it's just a mindset also. If there's injuries that I feel I can play through, I'm going to play through them.
And like you said, you're not only a consistent piece of the team, but you're also the leader of the team. You were DC United's captain in 2017 and 18, and have also been since 2020. So what does being the captain, the head player of your team, mean to you? And what responsibilities, in your opinion, come with being called the captain?
I think for me, and I've learned from, obviously, when Wayne came in, he became the captain. And I learned from him a lot, but a lot of it for me is just leading by example. I'm not going to ask someone to do something that I'm not willing to do, right? So I'm going to, bust my butt every day in practice. I'm going to make sure guys understand that I'm leaving it all out there on the field every game, especially in practice too, just to let them know that I'm here to work. And hopefully guys take to that, and I think I'm vocal on the field. I'm not the biggest talker off the field. I don't want to be, I'm not always rah-rahing guys, but in my position as a center back, I can see the entire field. So I have to organize and make sure guys are in the right spots. Not just defensively, but also offensively, because we start from the back. So for me, it's just, like I said, leading by example and hoping guys, follow. And, I don't want to be the only voice in the team, and it's trying to get everyone integrated and have that voice where we're a team of leaders, and basically just have that cohesion.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, as the captain of the team, as one of the players that has played every minute, I mean, I don't think many soccer players at all can say that. But something that has really helped you thrive throughout your whole career you talked about this before, has been winning all these aerial duels. This season, you have had an 80% success rate on aerial duels and lead the league in aerial duels won. Additionally, your sole goal of the year came on a header. What are some of your keys to consistently outjumping other players? And do you think headering and succeeding in aerial duels, you can confidently say is the cornerstone of your game?
I can confidently say that. Yeah, it's kind of always been that way. Even since I was a little kid. I don't know why I took to it. I definitely don't jump the highest. I do have a decent vertical, but I don't jump the highest. I think for me, it's mostly timing. I played a ton of basketball growing up and always took to rebounding, I think. So it's just meeting the ball basically at the highest, as apex, before the other opponent can. So I think it's just timing with me, and I just really enjoy not letting the other player win. I think it's mostly will, more than anything. I'm going to put my body in the right position to win that ball. So it's definitely my best quality in my game. It's not the most glamorous, but it's what's gotten me where I am today.
And this is kind of, I guess you could say, somewhat of a weird question, but you faced some big strikers in your time in the MLS. Just off the top of the head, I can think Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Didier Drogba. Obviously, you're going to be going up against a big guy in practice probably every day in Christian Benteke.
Yeah.
What is kind of like one of the most interesting matchups that you've really faced? Like where you've not really ever seen something like this player. He just has such a unique skill set.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously those guys that you mentioned like that, and like a guy like Josie Altidore, where they're so big that there's no way that I'm going to be able to overpower them. So it's just about being smart and putting yourselves in the right position, basically arm's length away, where they can't get you and turn you and roll you because they're obviously a lot stronger than I am. So it's about body positioning, but I think um, you know I'm trying to think, but it's the small, quick guys that are really, that really throw me off because it's not necessarily going to be a battle. They're going to just be super quick and they're going to be really dynamic. So like a Giovinco when he was at Toronto, I think that was an extremely hard matchup for me because he can check and go, he can run, he can actually ask for the ball underneath me and turn super quick, and he has that low center of gravity where me, I'd rather be kind of up in the air battling with those big guys. But when you have a smaller guy who's super technical and can, kind of create his own shots, I think that's the hardest. Like a Giovinco is probably one of the hardest guys I've ever defended.
Uh-huh. And with all these new additions into the league, I mean, you're going to be facing some great players, and then probably in the next coming weeks. I mean, you play LAFC next week. You might come up against Gareth Bale, probably Carlos Vela, a Lorenzo Insigne, all these guys. Who's one player that you're kind of really looking forward to facing and really trying to test yourself with?
Yeah, I think I go into every game that I'm just like, I want to make sure I dominate that number 9. I want to make sure that they're not going to score the goal. So every game, each team has these big time forwards that they bring in basically, and that's what MLS is now. It's every team is going to spend money on a big time forward, and so it's my job as a defender to basically shut them down. And so I just look forward to that goal every day. I'm a big Chiellini fan who just signed with LAFC, so I'm excited to just get to meet him, maybe after the game, because I kind of modeled my game a little bit after him in some ways. So I always study other center backs and see what I can take from their game and implement it into mine.
Uh-huh. I mean, as someone who lives in LA who watches a decent amount of LAFC games, I've seen Chiellini over the past couple of games just win a bunch of headers, and obviously, like we've talked about, that's the signature of your game. So I can definitely. I feel like every MLS fan can see some parallels between your two guys' games.
That's awesome.
And I kind of want to now move on to your international stage. So you made 11 appearances for the U.S. men's national team between 2015 and 2017. What did it really mean to you to represent your country in that way? And was this your big goal for your soccer career, or when you were kind of thinking about it, was there some other achievement you had in mind?
Yeah, I mean that's the highest level you can play at, and that was obviously the most fulfilling moment in my time as a soccer player, is to be able to represent your country and put on that jersey and sing the national anthem before the game is an unbelievable feeling. So I was lucky enough to play with the national team, like you said. I have 11 caps for them, and to play in some big tournaments such as Copa America and to play against some of the best teams in the world. We played against Argentina in the semifinals for Copa America and got to play in some major games like World Cup qualifiers. So to have that pressure on you and to understand that you're representing your country is an amazing feeling. And it's something I'll always cherish. And it's definitely by far the most exciting time in my soccer career.
Mm-hmm. And now moving on to the international, or kind of moving from the international stage to potentially actually playing overseas in an international country. In 2016, you were mentioned in rumors about a potential transfer to Europe and Israel. Maccabi Tel Aviv was one destination that was kind of mentioned alongside you. How close were you actually to taking your playing career overseas to Europe or Israel?
Yeah, it was pretty close. There was a moment in 2016 where, there was some German clubs interested in me, and I was potentially going to go over there. And then obviously the biggest one was Tel Aviv. And we were very close to, moving over there and kind of setting up shop and maybe using that, just to play in Europa League and seeing what happens and all that stuff. So I was excited for maybe doing that, but then I realized I loved how much, living in the States, and it didn't seem like the best fit for me to go over there at the time. And ended up re-signing with DC. And I'm just thankful that, I got that, extension with DC. And and that I've been here this long. I think that dream of going over to Europe is probably done now, um, because of my age. But it was a dream of mine to play in Europe, but it just didn't work out. And I'm thankful to kind of be in one place this whole time, though.
And obviously something that not very many, not even soccer players, but athletes can say, is that they spent their whole career with one team. Are you 100% sure that DC United is going to be where you start your career and you end your career? Or you maybe when your contract expires, maybe going to look around a little bit?
Yeah, I'm never 100% sure. That's definitely a hard thing to say. I know it's a business. It's not up to me. My family loves DC. We call it home now. I'll be here for, almost a decade. So we've put in some roots here, and we have a great life, and I enjoy playing for the city of DC, and, love the fan base. But, crazy things happen at the end of careers, and, you never know. So we'd love to be here, but we'll see what happens.
Uh-huh. And you've had a very successful career at both the collegiate and professional levels. And I love to ask this question to my interviewees because I feel like it is such a valuable one for really anyone young or anyone who's a parent who's watching. What is some advice you have for any athlete who aspires to play at the collegiate and professional levels?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is there's going to be ups and downs. I had a lot of ups and downs, especially with injuries, not only in college, but also professionally. And there were moments where I was like, man, I think I need to retire because of my injuries. And, realizing that I got into this game because I loved it. I loved playing soccer. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working on it every day. I enjoyed working on my first touch every day against a wall, just hitting the ball against the wall as a kid. And, halfway through my professional career, I had some really bad concussion injuries, and I was contemplating retirement. And, before that time, I was, I was like, man, I have to go to practice today. I have to go play this game. And I changed my mindset after those injuries. And I was like, I miss soccer so much that, I just love the game. And so it was one of those things where I changed my mindset and was like, I get to go to practice. I get to play in these games. And I'm lucky enough to do this as a profession. And I think you should feel that same way as a college athlete or even a kid growing up, is like, you get to play these games, and you play your best when you're enjoying it. And so I would say just to enjoy it, and take advantage of every time you get to, go to practice. And I think I took it very seriously at practice at a young age and was super competitive. And I think that's why I am where I am today, basically, is because I'm just competitive. I wanted to win in every training session from a young age. So just the drive and desire, I think, is the biggest thing for me.
Mm-hmm. You talked about with your original knee injury, how it was your college coach that really helped you push through it with, I know you just said you struggled with concussions and head injuries. Was it kind of just your mental mindset that helped you get you through, or were there helping hands that really helped you there?
There were helping hands. Obviously, my mom's been a huge, help of mine. She was there with me, since a young age. And she's been great. And I've always bounced ideas off of her and relied on her as someone I can always, just talk to about these things. And then my wife, she's been here for me every step of the way, especially, when I had 2 major ankle surgeries and I wasn't sure if I was ever going to recover from there. And my family's just been a huge advocate of mine, and, basically wouldn't be where I am today without them. So it's just, you rely on people throughout the way, and, all the coaches that have helped me get to where I am, my college coach, my club coaches, and the professional coaches before, basically grew me, and they always were looking out for me. So I thank all of them, but same time, it's a mindset as well. You got to have that will to play and that will to just keep going.
Mm-hmm. Well, Steven, I thank you very, very, very much for joining me here. This was a really, really fun interview, very informative, very fun. So I appreciate it.
Great, man. Well, thanks for having me on. Wish you all the success with the podcast. I love it, and keep crushing it.
I appreciate that. I hope to see you out there if I can get to the LAFC DC United game next week out here in LA. So yeah.
Be awesome.
Good luck. Good luck with the rest of the season.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.